G'day, cunts. I'm not trying to bail up on you blokes about that eSports pools business. Just want to let you know that they're a beaut. What with Chrissy on the way, we're all thinking about the new year and the tourneys. Well, they're no Claytons. So if you come a gutser with some dodgy sites in the past, then that's a shame, but this one's a corker. So give it a whirl if you want to be gobsmacked at their contests. If you know what you're doing, you could be grinning like a shot fox when you walk away with heaps of that sick moolah. Anyway, enough from this journo about all that, and back to giving the knock to some of those CS yobbos and wusses. Tell you what, I can show fucking yabba. Probably wondering what part of East London I'm from there, actually. So with the changes to the major, which the simplest way to say it is, the actual structure of the tournaments you have to play in haven't really changed, but they've basically just taken the major qualifier and made it the first phase of the major, and so the major qualifier just is part of the major. Imagine a phase before what was the traditional group stage of the major or Swiss system. So with that happening, it already meant that qualifying from a minor became more valuable, because qualifying from a minor doesn't now put you in the major qualifier where then you have to compete with all the people from the different minors and see who the best is. You're still going to do that, but you are technically already into the major due to qualifying from the minor. Now, that is already a huge positive for any team from a region that isn't Europe. So, particularly CIS and Asia. These are teams which typically do not then make it from the major qualifier to the major. But also the Americas minor. There are teams from the Americas minor who, from time to time, don't make it to the major itself as well. I mean, even Cloud9, believe it or not. I mean, they didn't actually come from the minor in the particular instance I'm talking about. Or did they actually? Maybe they did actually. Now, this is a huge positive for teams from those regions, because as I say, it's far from certain they would have made it and frequently didn't. But in particular, that makes Renegades, the team from Australia, who obviously has two players that are not from Australia, is specifically now, because of these rule changes, a much more attractive destination for players and potentially future ownership. So let's talk first of all about as players and as a team destination. They were already a good team recently, and they've gotten to a level that they've never been at before. So already they were a destination where you saw people like Naf, who previously was on Optic, Nifty, who'd made his way up through the scene, through Selfless. These players took their chances and went over to play with the Australians rather than just join other NA teams. So they've already become a good team and where you might think about going if you're an NA player. I mean, they had top 4 at DreamHack Denver. They actually managed to win the StarLadder I-League Invitationals #2, which was the tournament where it was mainly Virtus Pro as their competition, but they beat Virtus Pro, and that was where Virtus Pro had just come off the back of that amazing second place at Epicenter, where they almost won Epicenter, one of the stacked events of the year. Then you go to, they had the iBuyPower Masters, where they finished in second, ahead of the likes of Team Liquid, of this new Optic squad. Now, they didn't make the playoffs of IEM Oakland, but they did have the same record, won 2 of the 5 games that Gambit did, who actually did in 3rd place out of their group. They just didn't have the tiebreaker. So they were already a good team that you might think about going to. And they already had value in as much as they technically play in the NA region. They have decent backing. So because they play in the NA region, they get to play in EPL, they get to play in ECS. They have decent backing. They can speak English, obviously. The Australian members of the team, you're not having to learn a new language or a new culture. And because of being in the Asia Minor, they already had access to the major qualifier every year. In fact, they had played in all of the Asia Minors and continued to place top 2 and make it through to the qualifier. They obviously didn't in the first one, IEM Taipei, because famously they lost to Mongols. But beyond that, they would always finish second. And then finally, this last time, they actually won the Asia Minor and got through. It doesn't really matter. You just get a slightly better seed when you go to the major qualifier. That was already the case. That was already why it was an attractive destination. But now, because winning the minor or just placing top 2 at the minor puts you directly into the major. And in fact, as far as we can tell, this also means potentially qualifying for the major puts you right back. Well, it already did put you back in the major, but in this scenario, there's one less step to qualify. So now that placing top 2 at the minor makes you directly get there, that means if you go ahead and play for Renegades, you get to, first of all, be a top 3 to 4 team in NA, play in EPL, play in ECS, qualify to those LAN finals, perhaps be even better, because Renegades is looking fairly promising. You get to qualify for, in theory, every single major, which means you get your sticker money, you get a chance to be a part of history and play in a really important event and say, I was at a major. The only downside, basically, is that for the team itself, and for some players who might hear this and think, oh, I might want to play in Renegades then, the downside is they're fully booked at the moment, because obviously they have to keep 3 players eligible to play at the Asia Minor in order to retain the location of playing in the Asia Minor. Because if they add another NA player and take out Azza, Stillo, JKS, now they've got 3 NA players, therefore they'd have to play in the Americas Minor. So you don't get all these same benefits. So basically, they have to only replace the 2 NA players, the 2 non-Asian, Australasian players that they currently have. Now, that's not impossible, and certainly I could see that happening, because NAF has been performing at such a high level, especially in terms of fragging, that I could definitely see him moving on and going to a better team, or going to play with ex-teammates at some point in the future. Nifty is a player where he's really proven himself and been a revelation on this team. I could see someone looking at him as an all-pro or as an in-game leader in NA and asking him to come over, or perhaps one day maybe he can make it to a Mouse Sports or an Optic, one of those type scenarios. So there are possibilities for these to open up. So for players in teams like NRG, the former CLG, they should be looking at this team very seriously, because it's around their level, but comes with many more benefits than they currently were getting competing in their level in NA for NA orgs. I realize technically Renegades is classified as an NA org now, but obviously these players and the way the major rule works with the 3 of 5 means they get to be counted as an Australasian team for the minor and for the major cycle. So if you're a player like Ricky, who obviously was on Renegades in the past, you definitely actually should very much be thinking about going back to Renegades, because you're in a position where, first of all, when you join their team, you can actually join their team regardless of whether or not they keep NAF and Nifty, because you could replace someone who's Australian in the team and keep the 3 out of the 5 spots. So in theory, he's now one of the most valuable recruitment possibilities for this team. If you're someone like Ethan and Kusta, who played for that team. Ethan, obviously a player very much on the rise as a young talent. If someone like Naf or Nifty leaves, he should be considering this team. It can afford him a lot more career opportunities than playing in a CLG type team did, or his past teams. You look at someone like Kusta, yes, somewhat the trainers left the station on Kusta, like he's really got to do a lot to prove himself, but he's someone with some experience, he's someone who's had some decent performances at that level, and obviously this would be another chance to get back into a major type scenario that he's not going to get in some of the teams that he's currently playing for, and it doesn't look like a Cloud9 team is going to take a chance on him. An obvious person is FNS, because he's someone with a decent history, he's done a lot with his teams, he's worked with Ricky, and you could think of him being an in-game leader for a team like this, and could potentially accomplish a lot, especially because some of their players, I think, still have some potential to be unlocked. Obviously, JKS and Azza. Mainly Azza, I think, because there's more mentality thing with him and having consistency in his play that will take him to the next level. So, I mean, other examples obviously would be NRG players, so like Breezy, someone who's had decent fragging potential, being stuck on these crap teams. Daps, obviously another in-game leader potential. I would even say Stanislaw, because he doesn't look like Team Liquid and Cloud9 will be picking him up. Therefore, if he's not going to go back to Optic, this would be a great chance to get to a high level again, to play at a good level and get all these benefits you're not going to get as a reject, having to rebuild your career elsewhere. Basically, if you're from NA and you're not on Team Liquid or Cloud9, Renegades could make a case that they are the best destination you could end up at for your overall career, and not just in terms of like being able to play the biggest tournaments, but even financially, getting the sticker money, getting to go to majors again and again, by the way, that's also going to help the team get invited to events and show that they're the representative of the viewer base of Australia. So this is a lot of potential upside to playing for them. Now, funnily enough, as a team, this also helps them, because if anyone ever wants to buy this squad from the Renegades organization, they should now be worth a lot more, because they bridge a lot of worlds and kind of get through a lot of loopholes to get easier access to LAN finals and potential prize money, because by playing in NA, obviously we've only got EU and NA for Pro League, you get to play in NA, the easier one, admittedly until this season, and you get to play in EPL and ECS, and in EPL, top 6 make the LAN finals, so you've got a very good chance of making the LAN finals. Even for ECS, at this point with how good Renegades is, you've also got a good chance of making the LAN finals. Then, you're obviously going to be in all the majors, potentially, unless some amazing teams rise up in Asia, or you kick a player from Australasia. Also, with events like IEM Sydney came along and had this good crowd effect, and obviously ESL seemed pretty happy with it. chances for more of those tournaments, at which you will probably be directly invited to. Beyond that, as events like IEM Sydney build up, and as the viewership in Australia builds up, and ESL has shown in the past, for example, when they invited Cloud9 to ESL on Clone, not Gambit, they will sometimes invite teams where it's debatable as to who the better team is, but has the established fan base, and will bring eyes, and will bring bombs to put in seats, and will bring an interest from a region globally that isn't just more teams from a certain country that already is going to be represented and have an established viewer base in that sense. Finally, obviously, most of the players, in fact, all of them at this point in time, bearing in mind they don't have Nexa now, speak not just English, but very good English. They're all fluent. And as a result, not only can they all play with each other and can they play for your org, but if you're a Western organization, which odds are you're going to be, you're probably not going to be a Chinese org, then you can now use these people in your marketing to sell sponsor hours to have streaming, to be in commercials, to take part interacting with the fan base that you want to then engage with these particular products and sponsors. So for both players who aren't in Renegades, for the players who are on Renegades, and for people who might one day do business with or own the Renegades team, not the organization, they have now, thanks to just this simple tweak, which seemed semantic to some people, now become a much, much more valuable team and set of players, and their value overall as a Counter-Strike team has gone up just from this change alone.
Hey guys, it's Thorin, also known as 944. Don't forget Thorin's YouTube channel.